All right, guys. Welcome to the show. It is me, Devon Johnson, here with the Showtime Forum post-game report. Obviously, this is not the game that we were anticipating, and this is not the ending that we wanted, not the result that we wanted, but it is what we got tonight. And so the Lakers fall to the Grizzlies by a large amount. And to be honest with you guys, there's it's just one of those games, and there's plenty of things that I think we're going to talk about tonight. In regards to how we ended up here, and going from a place of winning and beating a Golden State team by like 30, and then going on the road against a Western Conference team and losing on the road, and not just losing, but losing by a pretty large margin. And so I don't want to put too much stock into what happened tonight, but there are several things that were concerning tonight. And I think we need to talk through it. Now, last time I did not get a chance to really get to all of the comments, and so I'm going to start off tonight by jumping straight into the comments in the chat. I want you guys to talk to me. Tell me what you guys are feeling. Tell me what you guys are thinking. I'm really just here to be a therapist. I'm going to be honest. I'm here to listen. We all need to vent. There's a lot that went on. And for the most part, it really doesn't change much about the future of the Lakers. They're still going to the playoffs. They still clinch the number one seed. They still have a pretty good cushion. But there were some concerning things. And so let's talk it out. Jason Jenkins, we were lethargic tonight. Absolutely. It just wasn't there tonight. And I don't know if it was so much as about the energy as much as it is about caring. It didn't seem like they cared as much about the game tonight. They really didn't have any great moments. They had a good run in that fourth quarter where it looked like we might be able to do something, cut it down to single digits. But for the most part, it was just lackadaisical. Anthony Davis, 15 points. LeBron James, 19 points. And the only other people who really scored was Kyle Kuzma, who scored 10 points, and Caldwell Pope, who scored 11. What was more frustrating tonight was when we had Alex Caruso in that starting lineup. He shot decently. He shot 3 of 5 and shot 1 of 2 from 3-point line, but it took away a lot of that intensity that we have in that second unit, and so it allowed Rondo to have more minutes than he normally would have. So Rondo ended up having 25 minutes tonight, and Alex Caruso ended up having 21. And where you normally would see an insert of energy, almost just an insert of fluidity into the offense when Alex Caruso comes in, that was not the case tonight. And I knew something was wrong when they did not put Caruso back in towards the end, which lets me know that Frank Vogel really had kind of conceded at a certain point, which is fine. On a night like tonight, Anthony Davis only played 25 minutes. I'm fine with that. If we're going to lose, at least we're not expending his energy. LeBron James had a hard time the entire night. He had 5 turnovers. Once again, these are things that we're trying to prevent LeBron from doing. We don't want LeBron having a lot of these issues, but he also missed the game the last game and came back in. And I questioned really whether or not it was even worth him playing. I actually would have been fine tonight with us losing had we not played LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It would have made more sense. In fact, I almost think the outcome would have almost been the same. But for whatever reason, we weren't able to get it going, and we lost. But a lot of it had to do with energy. And something that the broadcasters pointed out that is worth noting for any time the Lakers play. The G Leaguers were in for the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. And anytime the G Leaguers get a chance to play on a national stage like that, obviously it wasn't a national TV game, but when you're playing the Lakers, you're playing in front of a full house, you're having a chance to really put your name out there, and you play with a lot more intensity, because you're not really going to have an opportunity to play against the Anthony Davis and the LeBron James again. And so their energy matched with our seemingly laziness really combined for what you saw tonight, a loss 105-88, Lakers' first loss against a Western Conference team on the road. What were we drinking tonight, Laker fans? What were we drinking tonight? Anakim Mohan. Yeah, it's one of those nights where it's just like, listen, I got my tea out tonight. I was like, let's just get into therapy mode because we need it, Chris Tiller, on to the next one. The marathon continues. Chris, that is the comment of the night. Absolutely on to the next one. We can't ignore a lot of stuff that we saw, but it is on to the next one. We have a lot more we have to get ready for. March is coming, and we already talked about that opening week in March is going to be a brutal one. So maybe you do need this one to be a wake-up call. I don't think Danny Green was the reason why we lost tonight. Although I do think the rotations and changing some things around and having Alex Caruso in the starting lineup made a difference. Just real quick, in case you guys hear music in the background, my wife is having a writing session for a record downstairs. And so if you hear music coming up, that's them downstairs. So just forgive me. But yeah, it's the marathon continues, man. And shout out to Nipsey. It is what it is. Jason couldn't buy a bucket. And there's going to be games like that, guys, where you just can't buy a bucket. And to be honest, like this is some of the reasons why I don't really talk a lot of trash when I see teams like Boston or the Clippers get blown out. Because to be honest, we're always, every team is due for a game like that. And what gets frustrating is when it becomes a habit and a culture. That's when it becomes really frustrating. But when you have a game or two during the season, even possibly 3 or 4, it's 82 games, where you just get blown off the floor, it just happens. You hate to see it against a 8 seed that is fighting for their lives to stay in the playoffs, but that's the exact reason why they're fighting for their lives and why you are seeing such intensity out of the Memphis Grizzlies. The second half of the season means so much more to them than it does to us. We're thinking long-term, Western Conference finals, and things like that. But the Grizzlies are really just trying to give themselves a puncher's chance in the playoffs by finding a way to win. They only have a 2-game lead in the loss column against the 9 seed right now. And so, there's a lot more at stake for them. So they play with that hunger. This far into the season, you had this many wins, and you still haven't hit 20 losses. You tend to just kind of, you don't think of it the same. You don't value it. You don't value wins as much. And you don't really get hit and impacted by losses as much. So I fully anticipate they'll come back and be able to bounce back in the next few games. But for us, this was hard for us to watch. Donovan Bryant, fire Vogel, waive LeBron and AD, give Caruso a max and call it a season. To be honest, there are some people who really think that. There are a lot of people who really feel like every time we lose, and we've only lost 13 times this season, it's time to fire Vogel. And it wasn't about schemes or it was just one of those games, man, and we just didn't have the fire tonight. And what's more important to point out is that if Anthony Davis and LeBron James have off games, what we have proven statistically is we do not have enough to carry. But this is the truth for any other team that has 2 superstars. When you have 2 superstars on your team, you are heavily reliant on your 2 superstars. Part of the reason why the Clippers were having so many issues was Kawhi and Paul George not being able to kind of get together. But when they do play together, they're undefeated when they have their full roster together. And so for us, we found out that when our superstars struggle, there really is nobody else who's going to be able to really carry. The only other double digits, of course, we talked about Kyle Kuzma and then Caldwell Pope, who hit a big 3 during the run, but it still was not enough to keep momentum going. Daniel Hernandez, do you think we will sign Dion Waiters this upcoming week? It's very possible. I think this game obviously helps his case in the sense that, Rondo got a lot of minutes tonight, and Rondo, he did some things that I liked, but for majority of him being in there, I did not like it. He was 1 of 4 from the field. He had 4 assists. 2 turnovers and was a -11. And in a loss like this, the only person that was a plus was Quentin Cook, and he played 2 minutes, right? So everybody, or Jared Dudley too, but everybody's essentially going to be a negative. But Rondo just kind of fell back into that normal Rondo mode that we know of. One thing that I did notice about the team tonight was not so much that they were afraid, but they second-guessed their shots. And if you notice on the Memphis Grizzlies side, anytime that they went and attacked the paint or anytime they shot from 3, they did it quickly with a decision with full conviction. A lot of pump faking from Kuzma, a lot of pump faking from LeBron. A lot of dancing, ISO, just unnecessary stuff. And I think part of that is just because we have an older squad that values the shot clock and they try to use as much of the clock as possible. But in a fight like we had tonight, it would have been much better just to go ahead and shoot the 3. If you're going to lose, go out shooting. One of the things I loved about Dylan Brooks tonight, and they were laughing at it, and it was pretty funny, but Dylan Brooks shot 24 times tonight and only made 9 shots. But if you watch the game, he would almost make you think that this dude was like the second best scorer on the team. He just shot a high volume tonight, and it's almost one of those things where you wish somebody would have had a little bit more aggression and being able to get those things done. But just to answer your question, Daniel, it's very possible we'll sign Dion Waiters, and very possible we may not. The fact that he's being brought in for a second meeting means a lot. And I think the bigger news, if anybody saw J.R. Smith's IG, he did state that neither the Clippers nor the Lakers have reached out to him. So what that means to me is that if they're bringing in Dion Waiters, and they've already had multiple conversations, if they did not talk to J.R. Smith, it's because they didn't really see anything, any necessity outside of Dion Waiters, which means they liked something that kept them coming back and talking and not having to look for other options. So it's very possible that the man will be back or be coming onto the team. I don't know what it looks like, to be honest with you. It's pretty late in the season to introduce somebody, but we'll see. We'll see. It's very possible. Winston Mobile Apps, I am totally irritated. As I told you, we don't play hard and come out with force. Yeah, it's one of the things with veteran teams. It helps you when crunch time comes; they don't get rattled. But then it hurts you in times where you're getting blown out because they don't get rattled. Like they've just seen this story so many times. When you're young and you're getting blown out, or you're new to the league, first few seasons, it means a lot more because your pride is on the line. But when you've won championships like Rondo, McGee, Danny Green, LeBron, like when you've won championships, or you've been there, done that, you've been there and you've experienced that and still won championships, it doesn't really mess with you as much. Mind you, this is a LeBron that came back from 3-1 down and was able to win a championship, right? So he doesn't really get impacted the way that we do. But with that being said, this is a different NBA, and I don't know if people have been noticing in these games, teams are playing much harder than we've ever seen before. Part of it is because the throne and the crown has finally opened to anybody who's willing to take it. Toronto proved that last year. Really, it's just wide open, and with Golden State kind of going into rebuild mode, and everybody kind of scattered, and the league being far more balanced, teams are coming out hungrier and not just seceding. They're not just giving up when they see a certain team come into town, especially the Lakers, and so that's one of the things they're going to have to look out for. Donovan Bryant, why the F was Rondo in instead of Caruso when we were trying to make a last-second run? And that's a very good point. Caruso, while he did predominantly, I mean, he played all right, okay? But we all know, and I think all Laker Nation knows, Alex Caruso is not a starter. He works best off the bench when he's able to come in with momentum against the second unit. And because he had a little bit of a struggle tonight, it wasn't bad. Like I said, he shot pretty much in his normal range, 9 points. But he had a steal, and he had a couple of rebounds. But for the most part, he didn't really he wasn't able to contribute as much as a starter should. And I know we're all thinking like, well, what does Danny Green do and things like that. But for what Caruso brings to the second unit, is far more valuable than what he brings to the first unit. And so once it got to a place, like I said earlier, once it got to a place where it looked like we weren't going to get back in, you could tell that Vogel wasn't going to waste Caruso's minutes in those moments. I think he values Caruso. This is my speculation. I think he values Caruso to be able to contribute in the playoffs. And so this is one of those games that you can kind of see the writing on the wall. Nothing is going right. Literally, Rondo tripped over his own self dribbling the ball up the court. Like that's when those things happen. Just leave Rondo in and let him just do what he's going to do, because it wasn't a game worth risking it all just to win, right? I know that sounds crazy, but it really isn't. Not when you're 45-13. It's just against the team that is 29-31. It means more to them. Let them have it. Anaket, Mohan, all this will be forgotten if we get the W against the Pelicans tomorrow. And the Pelicans are going to be tough tomorrow. And I really hope that we come out ready, because the Pelicans are ready, and we're going to be on the road, and it's going to be, it's going to be one of those games where Zion has played us once, and he's going to be making some adjustments, and I think he's going to fully come out with full force. Caruso isn't as effective as a starter as he is from the bench. Absolutely, he's not. And I don't think anybody's expecting him to. I think me especially got really excited to see him get a start, but it wasn't his first start. He started 12 games, already. So, like, he's been a starter before. This is the first time this season. But he's been a starter in the lineup before. But we've all known, even in the 12 times he did it, it's not his role. Not right now. He missed a three that was so off. And once again, like I said, he's really learning how to develop his mid-range game. He had a good jumper tonight. Missed a wide open three. But he needs to get consistent at the three-point shot and consistent at coming off of the screen and being a threat away from the drive and away from the pick and roll. So he has to figure out a way to keep the defense honest when he's on the floor and not just be a total defensive threat and a small offensive threat. He needs to figure that part out. Winston Mobile Apps, when you watch the Bucks, they play hard every game. This one on coach. Well, yeah, you can say that, but the issue is this. That they play hard every game because they have no champions, right? And I think the only person that is a champion, if I'm thinking about this right, I can't remember if one of the bigs, maybe one of the Lopez brothers. I can't remember. Somebody maybe, but for the most part, Brogdon maybe. I think maybe Brogdon. But nobody. No, not even Brogdon. Nobody really on there is a championship. Like they don't know what it means to have a legacy, to have multiple championships. Rondo knows what it means to have finals expectations season after season. JaVale knows what it's like. LeBron knows what it's like. Danny Green knows what it's like. And so, like I said, they're going to play hard every game, but nobody is taking them seriously in the regular season. The Bucks need to prove themselves in the postseason. And every time they do great in the regular season. Giannis does amazing. He won MVP last year, and he got shut down in the postseason. So playing hard during the regular season doesn't mean nearly as much if you can't prove it in the post. And so that's why I'm not really worried about tonight, because we have a lot of savvy vets who have proven themselves in the playoffs. And again, LBJ played the entire fourth. Didn't expect Vogel to put him in there so long. No, but the only reason why LeBron played, and you have to go back and watch the game if you can, but watch out of the timeouts. LeBron was extremely upset, and part of it was because of the way John Morant was talking. John was talking a lot, and there was a lot of taunting going on. And if you watch LeBron's face, he was highly upset. And so he was very, very focused in it. And I promise you, him playing that entire fourth was because LeBron was on a mission. But unfortunately, it didn't matter. By that time, the mindset had already been shifted in the Lakers, and they were just like, we're done. I mean, we have another game coming up. Let's gear up for New Orleans. This one is over. Jason Jenkins, we stopped running offensive plays. We just started holding the ball and jacking up threes. Yeah, the spirit of Rondo took over in that game, and especially with LeBron. LeBron is such a quick decision maker, but by the time he started making decisions tonight, part of the reason he had 5 turnovers is because he was telegraphing his things, and it wasn't fluid. It didn't feel like it was just in the same mode that we had previously in other games this season where he had high assist totals. Like tonight, God bless his heart, the man had 10 assists, and those were 10 hard assists. We only scored 88 points, so you know how hard it was to get those 10 assists. And he almost had a triple-double, for what it's worth. He almost had a triple-double. But it wasn't quick decisions tonight. It was second-guessing. It was a slow motor to make decisions. It wasn't a lot of risk-taking tonight, and it showed from the beginning. What happened to Caruso? I don't think anything happened to Caruso. I haven't heard anything, saw nothing on Twitter. I think it was just one of those things where the coach made a decision that after Caruso started, I'm just going to give Rondo the bulk of the minutes. Mind you, Rondo only played 4 more minutes than Caruso. But the real teller is that when Avery Bradley was in, they ran a lot of Avery Bradley KCP, which was different. So normally Danny Green and KCP would be switching in and out. So to have Caruso in that position wasn't his really natural position anyway. They had him running at a shooting guard position, which really is not him. And so tonight it showed, right? But once it was figured out that it wasn't effective, they just kind of pulled him out of it. And once again, none of the point guards were hurt. LeBron, Avery Bradley, and Rondo were all still healthy. Caruso was sliding into a shooting guard position tonight, if that means anything. But he was filling into a shooting guard position, and it really wasn't necessary. KCP really got majority of those minutes with 29. So KCP played more than Rondo and Caruso. That should kind of give you an idea of how that went tonight. Would be great to have a rotation nailed down by this time of the season. Yes, but once again, this is why introducing people like Morris, who had a decent game tonight. I love seeing him get a tech. I know that sounds crazy, but I loved watching that. I loved seeing somebody with an edge, right? He only went 2 of 9. He went 1 of 6 from three-point land, but I like seeing him aggressive. He had 3 offensive rebounds tonight, and these are the parts that we were going, okay, having that valuable big who's able to kind of get some boards. But we did get out-rebounded tonight. We had 13 offensive rebounds, but they had 15, right? But Morris being able to kind of get more acclimated with where his positioning is made a difference tonight. To me, I think it's going to be better as we keep going on. And if you introduce Dion Waiters, now you're talking about another chemistry thing. So you're probably not going to see this if fully gelled together, depending on how they handle this Dion Waiters thing, until probably April, to be honest. It's going to take some time, right? Most of the guys are going to kind of have their thing together. But even when Quinn Cook or Troy Daniels gets in, they know exactly what their role is. They know exactly how the stratum goes, right? They know exactly like what the pecking order is. Morris is still learning his place in the pecking order. Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to come in here and shoot 6 threes? Are calling me to come in here and defend? Everybody's trying to find their space. And so I think that's going to be a part of it. They're going to have a hard time this week playing like this. There is no excuses. Absolutely. Once again, the beginning of March is brutal. It is brutal. Forgive my kids. They're going crazy. It's really brutal. And so they're going to have to really figure it out. But once again, I'm not taking this one game and saying, oh man, like they're completely falling off. They played hard. I mean, you saw Anthony Davis doing amazing plays falling out of bounds against the Golden State Warriors. I think most of what we saw tonight was just an off game, right? And you're allowed to have those. Um, um, but I'm not putting too much stock in that. But they do need to get it together. The true test is coming up. The true test is coming up. Rondo and Kuzma on the floor equals zero defense. Rondo got blitzed so bad on that pick and roll and really left McGee in bad positions consistently in a row. If you guys saw that pick and roll where Ja would just go up and JaVale had no other choice but to go with Ja, and then Ja would just pass it off to Valanciunas and then they would score. That's because Rondo was not able to get around the picks, and so it left JaVale to pick up John Morant, and that's never going to work. Okay, not with a team that has a person like Valanciunas who's great in the pick and roll. Winston, the Bucks don't get blown out. No excuses. No, they don't get blown out, but they don't win championships. Once again, getting blown out means nothing. Kobe and Shaq got blown out. Okay, that is not what you put your stock in. The stock is in a 7-game series. Can you carry me all the way to a championship? And unfortunately, as of right now, the Bucks have not proven that. And they do this every season where they do great, they do amazing, they put up amazing stats, amazing numbers. Giannis MVP. And they've been doing this the last couple of years. And once they get to the playoffs, before the excuse was, well, LeBron is here. And so last year it was okay, well, LeBron's not in the playoffs, he's not in the East, and then they got shut down by Kawhi. So the question is like, do they really have what it takes to win a championship? Once again, winning games during the regular season, we value it because we like seeing winning. But that doesn't necessarily translate into the playoffs where the whistles get swallowed. They play a little bit different. It's much more physical. And really, I mean, even during the All-Star game, you kind of found a way to like really contain Giannis. You just put a wall up, and once you put that wall up, that's it. That's a wrap, right? He's not even shooting that great. You know, he picked up a little bit of a three, just enough to keep you honest, but it's not that great. He's shooting underneath 30%. So it's not about being blown out or winning by a blowout. Don't put stock in either one of those things. What you put stock in is, can we handle it during the playoffs? And mind you, remember the Rockets were doing something very similar. Rockets had a high-powered offense. They would run people off the floor, and then for whatever reason, once they get to the playoffs, they can't seem to get it done. Oklahoma City had the same issue. They got all the way to the finals and couldn't get it done. And so that's what you're looking for. Can this team get it done when it matters is what it really boils down to. None of our support could score. None of them. Our bench was, well, let me not say none of them. I mean, once again, Kuzma and Caldwell Pope combined for 21 points, 10 and 11. You had 5 points from Morris, 6 points from Howard, which is normal. He only had 7 rebounds. And on a night like tonight, when we have so many bigs, for us to be out-rebounded like we were was probably more of the issue for me. More than the scoring was just the second chance points. They were killing us in the second chance points. They were doing their thing tonight, and hats off to them. Blake St. Clair, there's still a fragility to this team, especially for an expected championship team. Yeah, very much so. But I think this is one of the reasons why I like Morris so much, is because he does bring somewhat of a presence. I think right now he's just not sure where he's supposed to be and how it's supposed to work out. But I think once he kind of gets his role and knows that he's the bruiser of this team, he's going to be our Draymond in certain areas. I think it's going to matter. You don't get offensive rebounds by accident, unless you just don't, box out like the Lakers didn't do tonight. But for the most part, it's going. I think we're gonna toughen up. I think it's gonna be something. Like, once again, like, look at the Cavs, right? You had, like, when the Cavs won, you really didn't really have a tough man, right? You had crazy people, but you didn't really have a tough man, right? And so I'm not too much worried about it. This, once again, us losing this game doesn't change my championship thoughts about this team. The flaws are still the flaws, the same flaws that we had the last 20 games. And the strengths are still the strengths. I just personally believe that in the playoffs, our strengths will really, really override that. Now, of course, signing a Dion Waiters, bringing a point scorer off the bench could be something if we end up doing that. Morris brings us a little bit more of a reliable stretch four, being able to shoot the three. He even plays three sometimes, but we'll see. Anakin Mohan, John almost posterized AD. Yeah. Which is great, man. Shannon Brown almost posterized somebody. I think for me, I'm glad AD didn't challenge. There was a couple moments where AD didn't challenge at all. I think they were really concerned about foul trouble tonight for whatever reason, but we don't know. Who do you think the Lakers will waive? Daniel Hernandez. I truly believe it's going to be Troy Daniels. I think Quinn Cook has a role on this team, as crazy as that sounds. But he tends to be like a Jared Dudley, where he's a spirit guy off the bench. Troy seems to be a little bit more. I mean, he's definitely a part of the culture. They all love each other. I think we've all I've seen that. But he's not as integrated into the culture verbally, if that makes sense. So that's my personal opinion. I think that you get rid of a Troy for a Dion Waiters, but either one, to be honest, Troy or Quinn, I just one of them's gonna get cut. It's not gonna be Dudley. It's definitely gonna be Troy or Quinn. So we'll find out. Everyone seemed very passive today. I'm not sure why, but hope for more effort tomorrow. And you may or may not. I mean, once you get to this like they have one more road trip after this. It's like 6-game road trip. We tend to forget, man. But like if you can remember your first time working at a job, right? You tend to come in excited, especially if you wanted the job. You come in on time. You make adjustments. You give your all. You give it about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months into the job, you start to find your lazy spaces, right? And you kind of find these areas where you can cut corners, like it's a Friday, and I'm not necessarily looking for my production to be at a certain place, so I'll kind of slack off in certain areas because you've been on the job long enough, you just learn the culture. That's kind of what the Lakers are kind of going through right now. I think, they've gone through the season long enough. They've done long winning streaks, so it doesn't really give them hype anymore. Their record is still, once again, if they lose the next game, they're still in the same position. And I think the excitement about being Lakers basketball and being back and all that stuff, it's not hitting them as much. I think what their minds really have been focused on is the playoffs. And so I think they're starting to rest more. I think they're starting to take plays off. And we don't like seeing that. That doesn't look good to us. And it really isn't good. But for the most part for them, it doesn't faze them, I don't believe, because they know where they're headed. They know what they've done a lot of the groundwork in the beginning, so they start doing the thing that we normally do on a Friday night. Just kind of like, hey man, I'm about to clock out. I got plans after this. But what generally happens, even when you're on your job, something happens that like either you get written up or something happens where that wakes you up and gets you back focused again. We're probably going to need a game like that. Maybe it's a 2-game, 3-game losing streak. Something's going to need to wake them up to get them back in that place. I'm really hoping that they win the next game and then we gear up for that heavy schedule in the beginning of March, but we'll see. Wayne, good old-fashioned trap game. They might have been looking ahead for tomorrow's game still. Lake show forever. Yeah, man. And once again, New Orleans is fighting to get into the playoffs, right? And so you're going to see a lot of push from them. And they're going to probably have more push than what they had tonight. The difference is that they don't necessarily have they're really good players. The Ingram and Zion, if you can contain those two people, you're really doing well. But tonight, you really couldn't point the person. They doubled job, but I mean, Dylan was just shooting whatever he felt like shooting. And then Valanciunas was doing work on the inside. And then, it felt like it was like a win by committee. It felt much more like how we lost in Boston, where it was just like everybody was just contributing and doing stuff. And you were just kind of sitting there going, I mean, man, who do you shut down? Who do you pinpoint when everybody seems to be getting it going? I think it's going to be far different for the Pelicans. I think it's going to rely on two people, and hopefully they're able to have a plan for that. And Wayne, I can't blame Vogel for this. Alex, as a starting, the guard spot is fluid at this point. Yeah, it is, but it does mess a little bit of the rotation up. I've always dreamed of an Avery Bradley, Alex Caruso backcourt because I just love their defensive presence. But tonight it just didn't work. It didn't work well at all. Avery Bradley is kind of falling back into that slump again where he's not scoring. I like seeing him up towards the double-digit category, but he shot 8 times tonight and shot 6 threes. We were 3 happy tonight. We went 9 for 36, 25% from 3. That's absolutely horrible. And what's even worse is that our free throw percentage was right down there with it. 7 of 12 tonight, which is horrible. So if we can get our threes under control, play a much more fluid offense, and then really hit our free throws. Dwight was probably our best free throw shooter tonight. Anthony Davis missed his 1 free throw. LeBron missed a free throw, but Dwight Howard was 4 of 6. So it's just one of those weird games. You never see games like that. But who the heck, Laker Metropolis? Who the heck is Dylan Brooks? Dylan Brooks is one of those guys that he just gets hot every now and again. He's obviously a great NBA player. He's valuable to the Memphis Grizzlies, but they're out to have something to prove, man. That Iggy situation woke them up. Ja came in here and changed their whole rebuild strategy and made them go for it now. So I'm hats off to them. Hats off to them. Blake Sinclair, for a veteran-heavy roster at this stage of the season when the bench needs to help carry the team and the starters of the playoffs, LeBron and AD look physically, mentally, and emotionally drained. Or, I don't want to use the word drained, Blake. I want to use the word bored. I think they've lost. I think there's certain things that wake them up. I think like the Clipper game is going to wake them up. I really do think that the 76er game is going to wake them up. But they seem to be like disconnected from the severity of the moment. And to be honest, we're starting to see a lot of what we were bashing the Clippers for. We're starting to see a lot of it right now. For the Clippers, they were load managing. We just did that last game. They really didn't care about the regular season as much, but you can obviously tell that they have the skill set. They've proven it, right? It's the same thing with us. We've proven that when we're clicking, we're one of the most undefeatable teams in the league. You just lost this late into the season. You just lost to your first road Western Conference opponent. Okay, obviously the Clippers, but the first time away from Staples. Like that's a big deal, guys. That's a really big deal. And so getting this late into the season and you're still under 5 losses on the road to Western Conference teams in a West that is pretty much loaded, that means a lot, man. So. But you're right. You're right. We do need the supporting cast to be able to pick up and be able. I would have loved to see Anthony Davis play the minutes he played tonight and us come out with the win. But the supporting cast couldn't carry it. No thanks for Waiters. Another change would be more detrimental than positive for what you would get from him. And I don't know. It really depends on how much you're getting out of him. It depends on what you're asking him. I think the fact that they're bringing him in to have a conversation, I think is going to be much more about their expectations of a role and to see, is that something that you can do? If it is something that you can do, how committed are you to it? And then setting up parameters. This is just what I'm thinking. The same thing with Dwight. Dwight, we're telling you what we need from you. Can you fit this role? We don't need you to score as much, even though he's been tremendous. We don't need you to score. We need you to play defense. We need you to rebound. We need you to be a good culture guy, good locker room guy. Can you do it? I think the same conversation happens with Dion. LeBron knows Dion Waiters. So I think there's a little bit more at stake in the conversation. At the same time, even if he does get signed, I don't know what Vogel does with him because Troy Daniels is a pretty reliable shooter for the most part. Quinn Cook can hit and miss. But it seems like people who are defensive liabilities are the people who don't get to play, right? So the Jared Dudleys. Jared Dudley is, he's known for shooting threes. That's kind of what he's known for. And he doesn't get any playing time, and he knows that. But that conversation happened with Jared Dudley before he signed. And so, these are things that I think we need to think about in regards to anybody. If we sign or don't sign Waiters, it's obvious we're not signing J.R. Smith because they haven't even had a conversation with him nor called him. So if they haven't called him by now, I just don't see it happening. So we'll see what happens with that. Wayne, you need to turn this into a brief podcast or something. I know, man. I'm so sorry, guys. It'd be going so long. Anakan Mohan, I'm just worried about LeBron's workload before the playoffs. Oh my God, such a good point. We talked about this. Let's do this, guys. Let's just do this while we're here. We're about 30 minutes in. We're not going to spend too much time tonight because, listen, we know this is not the way it's supposed to be. But what I want to do is I want to just point this out. We talked about this heavy schedule coming up. So when we get back home, Philadelphia, Milwaukee at home, Clippers obviously in Staples, and then we have like Brooklyn and Houston. Denver, Utah, all those people, doesn't really matter to me. So look at these games. Denver, who I fully believe we can beat. That we've already proven that. Utah, we know we can beat them. Charlotte, we can beat them. Detroit, Toronto, I don't know, we're on the road there. Cleveland, Washington, Minnesota, all these teams, Oklahoma City, Golden State, Chicago, all of these games are games that we should be able to build, even on the road for a 6-game road trip. We should be able to build enough of a lead heading into the fourth that LeBron and AD can sit under 30 minutes. That is what's going to maximize our possibilities and our chances and really LeBron and AD's efficiency going into the playoffs. It's them getting the right kind of load management where if they do play, they're playing 20, 25 minutes maybe, and that's because they're having fun. We want to build a lead. Like tonight would have been a perfect example. We would have flipped tonight, and we would have been the ones winning by that margin. It would have been perfect. We need to take advantage of that against these teams that obviously don't have any business hanging in there, right? Cleveland, we should be drowning Cleveland, right? Washington Wizards, we should be destroying them. Sacramento, they're going to be tough because it's Luke, but it's not. It's nothing, right? Golden State, like what we did the last game. We need to do that again. We need to maximize rest for them in those areas. Winston mobile apps, I'm seeing a trend though. Early in the season we were playing hard. Lately we are playing soft. Yes. So in the beginning we played real hard. Then we hit that long stretch. I don't know if you guys remember. We were losing like games. Like we were losing like 4 games here. We were like hitting streaks that we were like, wait a minute. And this is right after LeBron had said it's our goal not to lose 2 games in a row. Well, that obviously got blown out the water through the first part of the season. And then once we came out of that, then we started hitting streaks again. Once again, I think this streak was 6 or 7 games or something like that, and it's finally ended. So there does seem to be a thing where we play hard, and then we fall off, and then we play hard, and then we fall off. And so the hope is that when you get to the play hard part of playoffs, it lasts throughout the playoffs, and it syncs up right. Who gets hot at the right time and is playing well. But if you are cutting corners, that's on coach. Yeah. If you're cutting corners, obviously, then that's a coaching issue. Lakers helping them Grizz to get the AC so that we could smash them in the first round. I love that realm of thinking. I love that. I honestly, me personally, and I think all of us in this chat could say it, we personally want the Pelicans to be the 8, right? I think it would be fantastic to watch the young core who has never been in the playoffs get into the playoffs on their own and then get to play against the team that traded them. And then Anthony Davis against us. I guess the storyline would just be so amazing, man. It would make so much more, make the win so much more potent. But then it would be entertaining because Zion's going to put on a show, and these guys are going to, they're going to give their all. Ingram's going to give his all, the whole 9. So I don't know. The Grizzlies getting into the 8th doesn't really excite me, but the Pelicans does. Waiters is a Hail Mary shot at this point. Blake St. Clair. Yeah, that's almost any buyout. To be honest. And there are a few other buyout candidates that happened tonight. That today, should I say? Because March 1st is happening tomorrow. That I'm not totally sure if any of those buyout candidates are going to be worth it. But we'll see. I don't know. I think they're going to test the market once again. They have to be cut by the 1st, but they can be signed after the 1st. So a lot of cutting, a lot of waiting happened today, and we'll see. We'll see where they stand with that. I get what you mean. They looked bored in games now, but to me, that excuse reason is the worst than being physically and mentally drained. This isn't the first. This isn't the first 82 game season played. It's their job. Yeah, no, absolutely. Blake. I'm not giving them a pass. I'm just saying, for me, I think when we watch the NBA, what we've noticed and what we've learned is once you get into the dance, what do you do with that opportunity? And so you're looking at the mentality of the team, right? I don't use this game as a mentality thing, right? I think when LeBron hurt his groin last year and we went on that, we basically just lost everything after that. We were 4th in the West, and then after that, everything just went downhill. It showed me that while we had talent and skill, like with Ingram, we didn't have the mindset. And so I was like, man, I would almost trade the talent for the mindset. Because you can do a lot with hustle. Grizzlies showed that tonight. You can do a lot with hustle and not necessarily have all the skill. So what I'm looking for is, does the team's mentality change? And one of the most encouraging things that I heard Boogie Cousins say during the All the Smoke podcast was, he said that the mentality of the team in the locker room never changes, whether they win or lose. They have fun. They enjoy it. They take each game seriously. But if they lose one or they lose two, they don't let it shift blame or start pointing fingers and none of that stuff, which is why the Lakers have been relatively drama-free. For the Clippers, that has been one of the things they've had an issue with. With the 76ers, they've had that issue. And at one point, even the Celtics had a small issue with that. But being able to, lose, and for us, we want, man, get upset, get frustrated. We watched Kobe go off when they lost, right? And that's how we've won all of our championships. All the championships we've known of, in our era, has been with anger, has been with hard nose, take it serious, every game you give your all. Unfortunately, when the Warriors kind of stepped in, they created a different kind of culture where I'm talking about across the NBA, right? Where you're buddy with everybody. You just kind of recruit the most talent and just, you go out there and you play and do your thing. You shimmy shake like Steph and you give the crowd an entertaining game. And if you lose, you lose, right? And that mindset is really the opposite of what we know as Laker fans and really just Los Angeles culture. We come from a city, and I was born and raised in LA, so just want to let everybody know that. I've only been in Houston for 3 years. But we in LA, it is a hard-nosed grind. Listen, I try to explain this to people. Outside of New York, I can't think of another city that requires as much hard-nosed grind, toughness, focus like the city of Los Angeles. That's where real that's why I love the city so much. The people who there are real, right? And so when you see people come into to the Lakers and they have more of a Hollywood feel than they do have the spirit of the city, it hits us different, right? And so even tonight, Like, we don't like the idea of boredom. Like, you can't be bored, man. Like, do you understand what it means to put on purple and gold? Like, do you understand like the legacy that comes? Those banners came with blood, sweat, and tears. You know how many dynasties came through this mug? Like, what you're building is not a one-off. Like, if we win the championship this year, the Laker fans are expecting a number 2. And don't win 2, because then we're really expecting a three-peat. So, our mentality as fan base, we're still trying to push this on these players, man, and they haven't got it yet. But I think if LeBron is starting to get it now, when Kobe passed, he started understanding. What we celebrate about Kobe was how much he gave to the city. It wasn't just so much how much he won. He won, but it's how much he gave. It's him shooting free throws with a torn Achilles. It was him with almost his finger almost snapped all the way off and a torn shoulder labrum. And then like, oh man, my right hand's messed up. I'm going to start shooting with my left. Like that mentality in seasons that didn't even matter, yo. Like those last couple of seasons for Kobe were horrible. And the man went out and scored 60 on his last game. Like that's the mentality that we think of. And so when you see games like tonight where the Grizzlies are playing with that mentality and they're basically smacking us in the mouth and we're going, so you're just going to let them just do that. It's offensive to us. It makes us feel like you don't understand the brand that you wear, the family that you've been adopted into. Like you came over here, but we adopted you because we can reject you. We've rejected a whole lot before. We can reject you, and so I think they're starting to get it, but we'll see. But they do not blow people out. So how AD and LBJ rest? What's the mobile ass? I think I understand. Pelicans to shut up the people who think we want to avoid them. Oh, Pelicans. Chase Aguilar. Yeah, man. For me, it's about the entertainment part. I'm just trying to figure out who they think we would try to avoid. To be honest, everybody's trying to avoid the Lakers and Clippers meeting too early. That's the big thing. We want to meet in the Western Conference Finals because it would just be cool to have all of the Western Conference games played in LA at Staples. LeBron, AD, Kawhi, and what's the boy's name? Paul George, right? Us being able to go against each other, right? The two guys who snubbed LA. Like all that. That's what I'm looking forward to. However, if we have to make the seeding match so that we get to the Western Conference Finals and whoever wins gets to the finals, that's what I want to see. With Waiters, I meant how he fits in a major and is a major maybe. Not like Collison or Morris. Oh, yeah. There were needs to be searched out. Waiters is much more of a gamble. Absolutely, yeah. I really feel like he's a last-ditch effort. I think that's why they're having a conversation, but it's 50-50. He may not get signed. And I'm fine with it if he don't get signed. Me personally. It's not like if he gets signed, we instantly go through the roof. I like the Morris signing because it didn't cost us anything. DeMarcus Cousins wasn't going to play this year. And he's still sticking with us. And listen, guys, out of everything that happens this year, it's looking like DeMarcus Cousins is going to be a Laker next year. With LeBron, AD, and man, get out of here with that. And we're going to re-sign Dwight. We're going to have a whole bunch of bigs, so I'm excited about the future. But you're right. Waiters is going to be a stretch on that one. Yeah, you're right. Kobe would be hot. That's why I'm upset. Kobe, no joke. We've all seen it. Kobe would have walked off the court and not done any interviews. Or he would have done an interview and he would have been so monotone, there would be no joking. There'd be no laughing, none of that. Like, we've watched those press conferences where they get blown out and stuff like this. He gets heated, boy. He gets heated. And so, and we're talking about, we're not talking about just the championship years. We're talking about all 20. When that man had Smush Parker, that boy said, I'm done. He got so frustrated, he was like, I'm done. I'm out. That's the level of frustration that we're used to. We've been groomed and raised in that kind of culture of winning championships. Not necessarily the healthiest way, but it's been the most effective way. And so we have to adjust a little bit, but they also need to adjust to us and understand we're serious about this. We will turn around and boo you in the same place that we celebrate and chant Kobe. We will boo you, okay? We mean that. AD not been pounding the paint last few games. Yeah, AD is not fully healthy. That is very clear as of tonight. He's not fully healthy. And to be honest with you, I'm really hoping after we get past the Clippers on the 8th, I'm really hoping they rest him for a few games. They probably won't, but I really hope they do. Because he's not fully healthy. He needs to get fully healthy if he's expecting to get through those playoffs. Laker culture. Winston Mobile Apps. Yeah. Just been seeing a lot of Lakers want to avoid Pels on Twitter lately. I welcome it. Yeah. I don't know what they're talking about. Bring them on. No, let's face the Clippers in the second round. Keep them at the level they're used to. Absolutely, man. That would be hilarious, yo. That would be hilarious, man. Like that. That would be hilarious. If they didn't get past the second round, that would be hilarious. I don't think it's going to happen. The way the standings are working right now, it's not looking like that's going to be the case. But we already talked about the schedule. Just so you know, in the standings, we're 45-13. Clippers are 40-19 in the Pacific standings. But in the total Western Conference, the Western Conference, we are still looks like we're 6 games ahead of the Nuggets. Now, this is what I want to talk about. This is what's important, guys, to me. The Milwaukee Bucks right now have clinched their playoff berth already. Okay, so they've already clinched the playoffs at 51-8. Okay, the next thing they're going to be clinching is going to be the division and the conference, right? So once they lock up the conference, and it's guaranteed that they're going to be in locked in at that seed. That's the level we're trying to get at, and we're not far away, guys. They have 51 wins, we have 45. So we're about 6 games behind them. And the way the Western Conference is looking, it's looking far better than the Eastern Conference to me. So it may be a little bit longer for us to clinch, but once we do, expect load management until the end of the season. It's the race to the clinch. That's what you want. The quicker you clinch, the more meaningless the games get after that. Okay, and you can rest your stars and the whole nine. That's what you want. That's what you want, and we're gonna see how it works, and we'll eat the fine. I'm sure of it. Do you think we get the W tomorrow? I think it's fully possible. I don't know. I'm not as confident, to be honest, because I know that it was close on the last. It wasn't close, but it was a hard-nosed game. And Zion gave us fits, and we were healthier then than we are right now. So I don't know. We'll see how it works. But this is the time where all the Western Conference is going to be beating up on each other. And so we'll see, right? Portland lost again tonight. Right now, Houston is going at it with Boston and OT. This is where like the rubber meets the road, man. And so it's very possible they could just outplay us because they really want to get into the playoffs. But we'll see. We'll see. With that being said, guys, I will be with you again tomorrow. I'm really excited about the fact that the Lakers are closer and closer to getting to locking in that playoff berth. That means a lot when you've been out of it for six years. And I think we have a lot to prove. I think tonight showed us that we have a lot to grow in. I think our frustrations are valid. I think adjustments that need to be made quicker than later. And I think that this week is going to be very telling for us. Do we sign Dion Waiters? If we do, it'll probably be this week. Can the Lakers hold court against a Milwaukee Bucks, against the 76ers who are coming into your home? Can we redeem ourselves against the Clippers after losing Christmas Day and opening night on 2 huge games? Can we make these adjustments? Have we grown? Does Morris make a difference? This is the week we're going to find out a lot. It's not going to determine whether we have a championship or not, but it will show us how much we need to grow and how many adjustments we need to make. So, with all that being said, guys, I appreciate you guys, and remember, don't forget this. This is like the mantra of our lives for 2020. Mamba out, but not forgotten, man. Spirit of Kobe is still with us. I'll check you guys tomorrow.